Two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn, on the mic.
Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live as well as YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you ready to have another happy hour on Thursday?
Yes. I love Thursday mornings.
I do too. My favorite morning of the week.
Yes.
Even over Saturdays.
Yes, I agree. Because all my Saturday, I like my mornings.
Mm-hmm.
I have a nice morning routine, but this is a good one.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
Yes.
So it's sick season. Everyone's sick. I hope you were feeling good.
No, I feel like I constantly have drainage. I've constantly clearing my throat, like a post-nasal drip. But other than that, I feel like, let's go.
So in sick season, I always catch up on shows, movies, everything that I'm supposed to be watching all year, I catch up with when I'm, deathly sick on the couch.
Yes.
So today we're going to talk about movies and music that shaped our life.
Yes.
Which goes all the way back. We're going all the way back. And what I think is interesting is, and I will ask you if you feel the same way, is today young people have access to so much information at all times. And they're not necessarily watching movies the way we used to watch movies for entertainment. That was our entertainment. Or we would watch television. But now they have the internet, so they can watch 3 hours of squirrels water skiing.
Yes.
I've watched a good 15 minutes myself. Or they can have this, not necessarily storytelling, not necessarily great storytelling. And that's what I really wanted to focus on for myself when I was looking through movies that have shaped my life, because they were stories that were told visually.
Yes.
Just like books are stories of another medium.
Well,
But I noticed kids don't know The Godfather. There were 30-year-olds who have never seen The Godfather, which is an iconic movie.
Yes.
They've never seen Goodfellas.
Yes.
They've never seen Jaws, which maybe is good because then they'd be afraid of. I think an entire generation of people is terrified of ocean and sharks because of that. People won't swim because of that movie.
Well, I actually thought this was going to be easy when you oh my gosh, yes. Then I actually sat down to think about it, and I was like, oh, this is harder. This is harder than I thought, because I'm just in a very different place. And Chris and I were talking, and he's like, no. He's always, even when we talk about movies, he's always talking about what the director or what the story or what the artist is trying to tell you. Or what are they trying to say? What's the message? And I think each message is its own. And I also think timing.
I think time is huge.
I think timing, what's going on in your life, it always can hit different.
Oh, I was thinking you were talking about the unfolding of the story and timing, like the Coen brothers. We just watched The Spy Amongst Us. I'll look up the real name of it in a second, but it was with Tom Hanks, and John saw it on the plane when we went to Greece, and he's like, we should watch this movie. So we watched it, and it was perfectly timed. The story unfolded at the right rate and picked up when it needed to be exciting, but unfolded at a good time. The cinematography for the movie No Country for Old Men.
Yes.
I've watched that movie so many times. I own it on CD or DVD. I guess it's
Can
DVD.
you play it?
I can. I have a DVD player, actually. And I bought it because I love the movie. I wanted to watch it over and over because at one point you watch the story for what happens. Another point you watch the story for what happens and then picking up any little things. Then when I watch a movie repeatedly, it's to check out each time I focus on something different because now I know the story.
Yes.
And one of the times I focused on the camera cuts because they had made that in a time period where camera cuts got faster and faster to indicate action. But sometimes camera cuts are so fast that I feel a little dizzy and I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they use that. Directors use how rapidly the cuts happen to create chaos or to create an emotion in us.
Yes,
and it does work because visually we're registering something that we don't know we're registering.
Yes.
So it's created as tension.
Yes.
And here's this very tense movie with a much slower pace. Every 6 seconds, the frame changes. And especially in the opening scene where the sheriff is explaining that I've always wanted to be a sheriff. My father was a sheriff. He was back in a sheriff when they didn't carry a gun. And this unfolding and these visual, very stark landscape of, I guess it's southern Texas or western Texas where it takes place. And it's just this beautiful movie in cinematography, and it's a horrible story.
Yes.
Right? But I was thinking that kids don't watch, or young people don't watch movies that way anymore. And I think that's why Hollywood keeps putting out the
same stories.
The same story, because they're like, we need to make money. Put out another Avenger. And it's like, tell another story, tell a better story.
Well, so we were talking about how, Chris, I was like, wow, I'm amazed at how he tells or how he watches a movie. Because as a kid, we had 3 channels growing up. We didn't have a VCR. Remember, you could rent them. And it was,
But that was actually later. So we grew up when all of a sudden HBO and cable came a thing. So you could actually go from, because the rolling out of a movie was the movie theater.
Yes.
And eventually it would make its way back to the television, but you'd have to watch it with commercials, and they'd edit it.
Yes.
To be PG. No swearing, no sexy. They edit it. So to see the original movie, you saw it in the movie theater. Then we got HBO, and then Showtime, and then Cinemax, I think, was a channel.
Yes, I think it is. I think it was Cinemax.
And I think that was the racier channel because we used to call it Skinemax.
Yes.
But so then we came to VHS. Then we came to actually, you could rent a tape and take it home.
Do you remember the ones that were like the size of like a record album? They were thin. And I remember, like, my parents would pick it up on the way home, so we never really got to go and see. And, like, as a kid, prior to that, I don't remember watching movies at home. Like, I was always out. I was always running. Maybe, like, you had to sit me down. I remember my parents watching, like, after dinner and stuff, Dallas. Do you remember the...
I do remember. Who Killed JR?
Yes.
And every week we'd be like, oh, who killed JR?
Well, see, we were like, I'm not watching that stuff. And like, so we were outside playing or we were doing our own thing. I mean, we had one TV. So I wasn't into movies the same way growing up because I was trying to think like, what was a childhood movie that I absolutely loved? And I don't remember. The one that left an impression was we finally got cable and the HBO guide would come out in the cover of Blue Lagoon, and we would go through and like look at all the R-rated, and we felt like we were doing something.
I'm gonna watch these.
Yes, and we never could watch them, but I remember sneaking down the stairs trying to see it because I thought it was, I was gonna see something sexy. I was gonna see some naked skin or.
So I benefited from having parents who read and who liked movies, and my mother would say, I'll watch it first, and if I think you can watch it. And a lot of times she would say, you have to leave the room now. And then I could come back. And then as I got 13, 14, she'd say, okay. But then we would have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And I remember Blue Lagoon being like, isn't she my age?
Yes.
And like her parents let her be naked.
Yes.
And I remember that being distinctly, and then my mother and I had a really long conversation about, is that inappropriate that you let your child's nudity be monetized? And then we kind of got into a whole thing about when is it art and there's a story to tell? When is it, I'm trying to think of the word we used at the time. God, I remember where I sat when we had this conversation too. I was on my gray couch. I had my cat with me because I remember thinking like, I don't like this. I don't like because I remember you're just getting boobs and everyone's making fun of you. And if you're not developing fast enough, you're being, and I remember thinking like, she's this young girl and now everybody's commenting on her boobs.
Yes.
Everyone's commenting on her
And we
nudity.
and, like,
and I remember feeling embarrassed for, you know,
Yes.
the self-consciousness I felt I put on her.
Yes.
And then to have everyone talk about it was like horrifying to me.
Yes.
And then I thought, oh, that's like being used. Your nudity is being used. They want it from you. And then they kind of punish you for it.
So good that you could think of like that. And that's kind of like why I was talking to Chris. You guys had the same insight, being able to have that level of depth. So like when I watched it, and I feel like my brain was always going. So when I watched a movie, I watched it purely for entertainment. It was purely for the action. Like I didn't allow the story to sink in. I didn't think about what came next. I was watching it strictly for entertainment purposes.
Did you read a lot
to
as
numb
a kid?
out? Yes.
Okay, so maybe the books were more of a storytelling thing and you didn't get that same thing from movies.
I think because books, like I could time it and I created this picture in my head. I created what the characters looked like in my head. And so this was all given for me. So I'm just used it to numb out. And, you know, I never watched TV by myself. And Chris is like, when we first started dating and he would come over, he's like, I've never seen any family or any person watch TV or watch a movie the way that you guys do. He's like, it's strictly for, you guys use it for a connection. You use it to bring something together. Because when the kids were little, like, I feel like I could relate to your mom. We would pause it and stop. Well, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to, you know, what do you think she's going to do? Or why do you think they did this? Or asking questions to get them to think deeper. Because I don't think I ever thought deeper on movies until I actually had kids. And thinking like, okay, now I've got to monitor this. And like, what are they trying to tell my kid? But you guys had that gift way before.
Yeah, and because I watched, my mother was watching things and she wasn't changing her life because I was a kid in it.
Right.
But both of my parents had this idea that I was this young, soft kid that was going to be obliterated by the world. And then I needed to know about reality as soon as possible because I think both of them felt like you are not going to live, like your reality is not the reality of it. Because I was just you know, and I used to watch animal shows. And I'd love animal shows because I'd love learning about animals. But whenever the animal's about to be killed, close my eyes.
Yes.
And
fast forward.
Yeah. And my father would always say, but that's life. Like, this is life. And I'm like, I know, but that one moment.
But I don't have to have it in mind.
But it would just be the break. I know the cheetah has to feed her babies. I know, you know, I know all of that, but something dies.
Yes.
For something to live.
I don't like seeing the animal. I like
that
I understand
moment of suffering.
Yes. I'm not going to change my dietary habit because I don't like it. But at the same time, like, I don't like to see the loss of life leave the eyes. And I don't like to see them hurt, like struggle. I don't know.
You were saying that way about the MMA fight.
Yes.
Well, you know what I realized something happened and I stood up for someone I normally don't stand up for. and then I was like, why am I doing this? Calm down. Like the narration to myself was, what are you doing? You don't even care about this person. Why are you all of a sudden defending them? And then I thought, I'm always rooting for the underdog.
Yes. Yes.
Because, and then it just brought it up again because sometimes you'd want the antelope to get away.
Yes.
And sometimes they would show the antelope and then they'd show that cheetah. Now it's not going to eat another day. Well, and then you're like, oh no.
I know. I
know.
know.
No, now the cheetah's the underdog. She's not going to make so whenever, and I used to be the same way in boxing. Yes. I used to watch boxing with my grandfather and I'd be cheering for one person and then they'd start winning and then I'd go cheering for the other person. My grandfather would say, what are you doing? You're cheering for the wrong guy. And I'm like, no, but I want this guy to win now. I always wanted the underdog to win.
Yes. Yes. And that's how I feel. And what's funny is going through and picking out some of the movies, like, wow, mine have a lot of underdog
component to it.
Yes.
So did you love Rocky?
I can appreciate it now, but no, not then. It
No.
was like, oh, that's kind of greasy and like that's all boy stuff, and I
Yeah.
don't really. So again, because when I was watching it, when Rocky came out, or when I was young, when I was young and watching it, all I saw was struggle, in despair, in fighting, and it just was
Poverty.
dark. Yes, and so those were feelings. Those feelings were like,
Yucky.
and so I didn't really fall into the story like Karate Kid.
I did not like Karate Kid.
I didn't like Karate Kid, but I understood that he was trying to do, what his professor
Mm-hmm.
was trying to teach him. And so even through the struggle, like, and even him getting beaten up by the other guys, and I could see it. I didn't consciously know that was happened, but I was into that story versus Rocky. That was like, oh, that's a boy movie, and I don't want to watch that.
Yeah,
and
and it's interesting because when movies would be tailored to teenagers, I immediately didn't like them, and I wonder if it's because I always watched adult movies with my parents
probably
that I was like, "Ugh, this is so.
yes.
You're trying. What is the message you're teaching me? You're beating me over the head with the message, and I hate it. I needed more subtlety in your messaging.
Yes,
Because the minute you know me with my anti-authority, what do you want me to do? Not going
Right.
to do it.
done.
Done. Not doing it.
I checked out.
But I didn't like. So what's another movie that? What movie from our time period was a girl movie that you're supposed to love and all my girlfriends loved it and I hated it? What do you think it is?
Oh,
I'll give you a hint. Patrick Swayze.
Dirty Dancing.
I hated that movie.
I did too. I liked. I didn't like her. I didn't like her character in it.
And Patrick Swayze was not a love interest. Like Hollywood never
No.
gets the good-looking guy for me.
No.
It's like Patrick
And everybody
Swayze,
loved. Yes, I never. He was kind of greasy. Like
He was just too thin. He's got thin thighs and he's just not
he had
masculine.
some hard edges to him. Like we needed like a Bradley Cooper back then. We didn't have one. And everybody loved Tom Cruise. And I'm like, I don't like Tom Cruise. And I don't like him. I don't. I've never have. I never thought he was cute. I don't like his acting. I don't think it was like, I mean, they put out some good movies, yes. And I know he was in Mission Impossible, and you like Mission
I
Impossible.
like Mission,
but
yeah. But so it's really funny because I didn't like him back then because of Cocktail.
I don't know if I saw Cocktail.
And that was another movie I did not like. And
Wasn't
it was
he
for
like-
the ladies.
Ghost.
No, that was Patrick Swayze in Ghost. Another movie I didn't like.
What's the one where Tom Cruise is in the library in the study,
A Few Good Men.
and he's like a baseball. It was,
Oh.
I thought it was more like a romance.
I don't know.
I don't
that
know. I
one.
have to look it up.
Yeah.
That was down a bunny trail, but I'm like, no.
Yeah, so it's funny how there was. Okay, so what movie? What was one of the movies? Name 3 movies that terrified you as a kid.
Friday the 13th.
Oh, definitely.
Friday the 13th. Jaws. I was little. We were watching it at my cousin's house, and I think the sound and watching it in real time, that was like graphic, like that was
Seeing it on a big screen with
state of the art.
surround sound. And that
Yes.
girl getting dragged down in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Never saw it.
It was gory. Those scared me, but I watched it. Now later in life,
So you have Jaws, Texas Chainsaw, and Friday the 13th.
Yes,
Great
yes.
ones.
then present day. Oh my gosh, what's the one that they did? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. They were camping in the woods. They were going on a hike, and it's all through like the camcorder angle.
Like a Blair Witch. only
Yes,
with
it's
camping.
Blair Witch.
Blair Witch. Okay.
So when the time that came out, we were doing a lot of camping in the White Mountains, and I'm scared of I am a chicken. I'm chicken. I'm.
They're always burying bodies in the woods. Why? I
Well-
mean, you're going to come across a serial killer sometime.
Well, we had a couple of things we had stopped hours of the morning. Our tent is violently shaking. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a bear. I'm like, I don't. You just being trapped inside. Like, I don't want to go outside. And you don't hear anything. Come to find out, it was a bunch of kids, and they were tripping over
line.
our tie downs. Yeah, there was trash, but they were being really quiet about it. Scared the crap out of me. But just a couple of freaky things that happened. We had been hiking. We were coming down the mountain late, so we're hiking in the dark. We don't have flashlights, so you're trying to use the light of the moon coming out. You can hear coyotes, and I'm scared of frogs. I don't like to walk in my grass at dark. So
this is you're out of your element by a significant amount.
Yes, and so when Blair Witch came out, I was in the middle of all of that camping and like I could put myself in that, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
So I agree with you about Jaws.
All right. So what are your top three?
First one is Jaws. Second one is Alien.
Oh yeah, that was scary.
That to me was unbelievably frightening. I loved Ripley as a character though. And the third one is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yes.
Don't fall asleep.
Yes.
And I already had insomnia baked into me, so add that.
Freddy's coming for you.
Hated Freddy Krueger.
Yes. Yes.
But I forgot about Friday the 13th because I stopped watching them. I had a friend. She was the only girl with 4 brothers. And we tried to watch that movie at their house, but the brothers kept running around with knives, and we never got to finish it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm never seeing that movie.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
I'm done. These brothers are terrorizing us as our babysitters. They were our babysitters, and they were terrorizing us. And then that movie was horrible, and I'm like, I'm not watching that. So I never really fully got into the Friday the 13th series.
Our babysitters were always picked not by their level of skill or care that they could give.
Their availability.
It was availability and age. Are they old enough to stay by themselves and possibly take care of somebody else?
Yes.
They didn't know how to cook. You weren't responsible for their safety and well-being. It's just like, I need somebody to be in the house.
Yeah, and I did come back and say that's never happening again. So I did get a new, because they were just like, well, she's your friend and she's being babysat by the brothers. So if the parents think the brothers are okay,
then
that's
you're fine.
fine.
You're fine.
I know.
So present day now would be, I think it's Saw.
Never saw it. Okay.
You don't ever want to.
Silence of the Lambs would be
Silence of the
now.
Lambs is that, yeah, because he's kind of freaky the way he's.
The whole movie, it was really well done.
It was done. It was done really well. But Saw was, I think is it Saw? And what's the other one? When lockdown comes, like once a year, everybody in the whole
Ethan Hawke.
Once a year, everybody gets to do. Oh my gosh, it's
Purge.
Purge, yes. I was like, man, that's kind of scary because you think about like.
Well, almost it's like a government thing that, when we get through any election cycle over the last. I'm like, wow, we are 1 second away from being the purge.
Well, that's
if you
how
didn't
I felt
vote the way we voted, we're going to come and purge you out.
There are some elections that I have felt like, when people are fighting and, relationships break up because of the political election, like that's scary. And people just getting so polar. Like I could see that happening. And that things like that I could see happening, that is what scares me.
Well, when the riots happened in 2020 and governments were saying for the police to stand down and let this burn down, I was like, wow, could anything be more frightening than the government saying people can come and set your building on fire and it's too bad?
Right. Right.
Like there were some of those towns have not been rebuilt.
Yeah.
With all of the money that was supposed to be rebuilding them.
And what I don't get,
to me, that was the purge in real life in such a way that I don't even think I could. It's too close to home.
Right.
That could be too close to home.
Right. Yes, that's how I feel. It's too close to home. And I was like, well, what would we do? Fortify.
Arm up. Get your target shooting practice in.
That'd be a long night. Yes.
Practice moving, shooting targets. Go clay shooting.
Yes.
And remember, it's very difficult to move
booby trap my front yard.
Yeah, it's very hard to hit a moving target. Move.
Yeah. Well, what I don't even understand is like the riots and stuff, and like all hell breaks loose, and all of a sudden you're breaking your neighbor's storefront windows. You're robbing your neighbors and your friends and your cousins, and you're looting, and you're destroying your own town.
Well, so think of the LA riots.
It's it's like pooping where you eat.
Yeah, the Rodney King trial and those riots, I remember very distinctly, and you're not I want to make sure I say this correctly. Korean Americans fortified their businesses because they're like, this is all we have.
Right.
And I remember them lying on their rooftops like, do not come here and burn down our building because we're defending.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember if California, you had the right to defend businesses. Because in some states, you're only allowed to defend your life. You're not allowed to defend your possessions. And a business would be a possession. So in some states, it's, we're going to burn it down and there's nothing, you can't defend that.
Right.
New Hampshire's not that way.
Right.
You can defend I know you can defend your home.
My territory, yes.
I'm assuming business falls into there. We'll have to ask Jim Lawrence. Jim Lawrence would know the answer to that question.
Yes, he would know that.
And the sheriff would too. And the police. The police department would know that. They want to let us know.
Anybody that follows the law would probably know that.
Would know that kind of level of detail.
Just chime in and let us know.
Because, there are some states where they just say walk away.
Yeah.
That you're not walk away. And
I'm not a walk away kind of person.
And there are some people who believe, it's not worth losing your life. You walk away and let that happen. It's like, are you kidding? Some people's livelihoods, that is their life.
Yeah.
They've built that, or their families built that, and that's how they feed their family and send their kids to school and put clothes on their back. What are you talking about?
Right.
I don't think
it's
that
how
way.
I sustain my life.
Right. And some people, I can't think of talking about the hurricane. There are people whose businesses are ruined, their lives are destroyed. And there are people who are capitalists who make a ton of money, who are infusing money into those people. They're giving them places to stay and money for their business, because good luck trying to get it out of, the time period it takes to get out of insurance claims and all of that other stuff, or FEMA or anything else. It's, thank God.
I know. Look at the relief. Man, I tell you what, I'm so grateful. I know we're going to just deviate. So we have a friend of ours who is special ops. And, you don't hear about it that much, but, the Carolinas have gotten devastated, and his daughter and his daughter's mom, they were up in the mountains of North Carolina, near, I think, Asheville. And he was coming back from, I believe it was Texas, and he just even put out on social media, hey, does anybody have
a helicopter?
A helicopter to put in. They have, tractor trailers full, and they
to speak to that a little bit, he said he went to people and said, hey, I need to rescue some people. Who has a helicopter? Everyone who had a helicopter came.
Oh my gosh!
Private
said, I've got
citizens.
Starlink. They brought the Starlink down. They bought these mobile units for, they've brought water. So a friend of ours who was doing a cross country trek from California back, she happened to be in Tennessee, so we thought she was landing in Tennessee, and she sends us a message, and she's like, no, I'm going to go deliver water, drinking water, to people in North Carolina. This woman is 72 years old. She's driving cross country alone, and she decides that, just the people in our lives.
And she just went through cancer herself.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it was amazing to watch these people, and then all of a sudden, private people are like, look we need supplies, and then other people are like, wow, you have the ability, the means, and a call to action. I will give you money for supplies. I will bring supplies to you. And then it turned into this, it almost looked like he is prior military, but it looked like a military operation to rescue and save people, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely amazing.
There were
and they
a few
don't get
comments.
credit.
Yeah. There were a few comments on the thread of hey, here's our government not showing up. They're all but, it's all but abandoned. And I'm like, don't tell me that humanity and people are dead. That
the humanity in people is not
yes,
dead.
Yes.
Yeah, because to me that's the biggest humanity. Is that's why I don't think our government needs to be bigger.
Right.
Because you must be in your own way.
Right.
Here are millions of people in need. And here are people on the ground beating you.
From all over the country just showing up just showing up to support other human beings. And I'm like, and thinking about it, he has a job. Like all these other people, they
have work to go to.
Yes, have work to go to, but they stop everything. They stop everything. They go down and help these people. It started out as a rescue mission for his daughter, and
you're not going to rescue two people and not see other people that you rescue and stop. It just
right.
You can in your head be like, I'm going to do this, but now you're like, look at all of this
right
need.
Because I can't walk away from this. All these people need help, and I'm a willing, able person. And I thought, man, how beautiful is that? And it makes me just so grateful and just teary about the way that we show up. Just even in small ways. It doesn't have to be, like Adam's, being able to. And thank God he's got the network that he's got. I mean, I don't even know how many helicopters came in to do rescues. Everybody's like, hey, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. And
he started saying, I put out a message, I need a helicopter, and here's all these helicopters. And because they showed up, he didn't go, great, I only needed this one.
Right.
He went, okay, you. Like, yeah. It was amazing how...
delegate and just it was like a military operation,
procedural operation to now everyone who showed up, great, I'm going to use you for something. And then people realized, and then okay, right. We have a system in place. And that's what I was saying about the government being too big. The whole point of FEMA is there a system to be in place,
right?
And I'm sure that's federal government. It has to go to a state, and then the state has to understand how to organize it. So I was just thinking, God bless DeSantis, because he knows how to fix up after a hurricane. Yeah. So they just had Hurricane Helene, and they were told, everyone throw all your soaking wet belongings out onto the street. And then private contractors were hired to go and pick it up. Well, here's another storm, and it's all still on the street.
Yeah.
So he pulled every single person off of every single organization, opened up the landfills 24/7, and started moving all of that stuff. That's what the government is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Have an organized system to be able to accomplish the
things. Well, that's what FEMA is supposed to be for. It's boots on the ground to just, to go in, immediately start helping in moving and providing care and need. And
for Hawaii, and I know people in Hawaii, I know people who opened up their homes to people who were affected by the fires. They were given money by FEMA, and the people never showed up. And so they were saying after 3 months, hey, if you're not going to put people in here, I have to stop receiving this money.
Right. But it doesn't come up to us. We don't hear about it on the news.
You don't hear about it on the news. And then
you don't hear about how Hawaii is still devastated.
Right. And I was thinking, as a property manager and a real estate agent, hire 2 local people and say, okay, part of the process is you getting everybody in homes.
Yeah.
How did it go from the money, the appearance of stuff, but actually never reaching the people? Right. How does that happen? And I don't have any answer for you, but
I don't know. I think it happens all the time.
Well, I think government isn't in the privatized section of how to get things actually done.
Well, true. I mean, I don't want to get political.
Yeah,
stuff,
I'm not going to.
But immediately when another country, but I know, but you think about it, when immediately
but we
when
send money and arms.
We send support immediately. Like
financially,
how much support has Florida that we know from
I think
North Carolina down?
I don't know about North Carolina and Georgia, but DeSantis did say that he is in touch with the appropriate people and has asked for the funds required, and that not all of them have been approved. But so it sounds like, but he knows what he's doing there. I mean, he's been through 7 hurricanes in the last 4 years.
I want to look up and see what happened to Sweet Sage. I wonder if that's still.
Oh, they were underwater the last time. They had 4 feet of water from the Helene. I don't know what happened yesterday. But back to the movie thing. So sorry.
I know.
And do you like apocalyptic movies? Like the ones that are being saved from asteroids?
No, not really. I'm
not
not a huge sci-fi. Like I think what was it, Tornado or Twister or something like that. I think we saw that once. It was like
it was a better movie it was a better ride at Universal Studios in Florida.
Yes. yes.
But I was also never into King Kong.
Now, those
Creature double feature on Saturdays.
No.
See, you lived in better weather, so in New England, I mean, we were stuck inside for a good period of time. So our thing was we would watch stuff over the winter.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember. Say as a kid, like I'm in a deficit when in this conversation because I don't remember. We watched whatever our parents were watching. I remember in the wintertime, I don't. It was the mini series, The North and the South,
Never heard
and
of
that
it.
was like a Civil War movie. Well, it was they were fighting. The North and the South were fighting, and I liked that because it was something very different. I also liked the color purple. Was that Whoopi Goldberg?
Yes. And Oprah Winfrey was in that.
Yes. I had never seen anything like that before. And like just that kind of acting and a different side.
A different side to the storytelling.
Yeah. A different side of the storytelling instead of just like you got more into, you actually got to know the people that were. I feel like you got an inside peek about into lives of, slaves and all of these things.
Were you
Like-
a big, like you saw Godfather, right?
Yes, but I didn't see it until I met Chris.
Okay.
So I was in my 30s.
Okay.
So we never.
And what did you think of it?
Oh, I liked it. I
Mm.
loved it. We didn't. I'm trying to think the other. What's the. I'd never seen The Sopranos either. And we just started watching it. Because Chris is like, how do you not see The Sopranos?
Right.
Like, I did a TikTok during our speakers, and somebody posted on there. He's like, your pool looks like The Sopranos.
That's awesome.
And I was like, what? So then I had to go see it, and he's like, are you kidding me? You have not seen The Sopranos? I'm like, no, when would I have?
Right.
I don't watch TV by myself. So I moved out.
I'm not going to watch that with my children.
I was out of the house by I was 17. I was out on my own at 17. I didn't pay for cable. I didn't have cable because I wasn't, I worked. I got off of work, and then I went out, and I hung out with my friends. TV was never on.
So when I hear something funny, I moved out into my own apartment, and I wasn't spending money on TV. I had 3 jobs. When was I have time, so I didn't. I had a roommate, and she was like, what are we going to do about television and cable? I was like, I don't care. I'm not even home.
Right.
So she's like, I'm not going to be able to live without a
What do
television.
you do with that?
I was like, okay, get a television. She's like, you don't want to pay for a television with me? I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't have money for that. Like, I don't.
Right.
So she did get us a TV. So I think when I first moved in, I was in there 2 months before she moved in, and then it took us like 2 months, probably 2 months for her to save or get a used television from a family member. But it was the kind that had the big tube, so it was this giant piece of furniture in our living room. We had no other
Yes,
furniture.
yes.
And so for Christmas, my cousin Erica got me a VCR so I could tape things because I used to love during that time period Melrose Place.
Oh.
And it used to be on at 10 o'clock on Mondays, and I wouldn't be home. And so I could tape Melrose Place to watch that.
I think my daughter's watching Melrose Place right now.
That's funny. That's funny. It's back, or did they change the actors?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, she's going back to watch the old.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What's her name?
Heather Locklear?
She's a little. She has dark hair. I'll look it up at
Okay.
the break. One of the great TV shows that we watch, and of course we're always a day late, and I don't know when Grey's Anatomy actually came out.
I've never seen it.
Oh my gosh! But it's medical, so I love medical. I love stories. But my daughter started watching it. This was probably during COVID, and we got hooked. And then Chris got hooked, and so now we're all watching Grey's Anatomy, and he's like, I can't watch this stuff. But the character development and the story development is like, I love it. We stopped watching it. I think they still have seasons going out.
So that must have been on for 20 years, 20 plus years.
It's gotta be.
Yeah. So to me, one of the best shows, and I didn't see it. So I have that series where I don't own a TV. Then my roommate gets a TV, but I'm not watching much TV. And then I did watch the movie about the bus with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves and just trashed it. And I was like, see, this is why I don't go to the movies.
Is that Speed?
Speed. Yep.
Something like that?
Yep. Ace Ventura was a movie. Because I used to go on dates. So you go to the movie for dates. So I was seeing movies at that time.
You actually remember the movie that you saw?
I don't remember who I saw it with. I remember the movie. I don't remember who I saw it with.
I think I spent more time in the movie like, are we going to hold hands? Is he going to put his arm around me? Or am my God, what are we going to do? Is he going to kiss me? And do you ever remember, like, if you were a good kisser, do you ever remember thinking, like, am I a good kisser?
Right.
Like, oh my God, what if he French kisses me? Am I going to know how to do it?
I know all the worries of a teenager.
So you're like, what movie? I remember those things. So see, again, I was not in the movie to see,
Yes.
experience the movie.
Yes. That's funny. And then then I was living with a roommate for a while. Then I had to get my own apartment because we were moving and we didn't move back. We didn't continue that relationship. So I was alone in an apartment, again, without a television. She took the TV with her. It was her TV. So again, I was like 6 months without a television.
Like, what do I do?
And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, said, we got to get a television for movies and for nothing else. You have a VCR and no TV. So he brought like his grandmother's black and white. And then I eventually bought a television. And I bought, this is how long ago this was, the picture-in-picture.
Oh.
So you could watch a movie, and then when that went to commercial, you could flip over and watch the football game, and then flip back when that went to commercial. So I liked the picture-in-picture. And then in 2007, I was just sick of cable television. So I said, I'm not going to watch. We should cancel cable. I don't think we're getting anything out of it. So from 2007, or was it 2003? Maybe it was 2007. To like 2014, we didn't have a television. We just would watch the internet, like watch something on YouTube. I mean, I still had a television. That's not true. Between 2007 and 2011, I still had the TV with the VCR, and I would watch and still rent movies and stuff, but I didn't have cable. I didn't know what was going on. But one of the best, so we get back into it, and Breaking Bad. So I missed the entire hoopla about Breaking Bad, and then I think maybe it was 2019, we started watching Breaking Bad, and I think that's one of the best written shows.
See, I have to stop.
Of all time.
I haven't watched it. I watched the first.
You have to watch it.
I watched a couple of shows here and there, like the kids would have it on, and I would pick up bits and pieces of different seasons here and there, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go back and I'm watching it. Well, all of my family has all watched it. I don't watch TV by myself, so I'm like,
someone would have to rewatch it with you.
Yes, because if I have the choice, if I have time for me, alone time, it's not going to be in front of the TV.
Right.
I'll do anything else. You know, like I have a bonsai.
Yeah, you're now getting into bonsai trees.
Well, no, I was just thinking, like, for 4 days now, I've been wanting to make time to, they showed you how to wire your bonsai so you can create the shape for it. They had heavy wire, and my son has got some really thin wire. So, but I haven't had time in the day. And like, at the end of the day, I'm like, no, I don't want to work on that now, but I will find anything, even like wiring a bonsai over sitting down watching something.
So between 2007 and 2014, I started sewing really in earnest. Every night I would pull out my sewing machine. So I would I own DVDs, but I would put on the same, that's how I'd end up, just for something for noise in the background, because I didn't have to watch it. I knew what the movie is, but I could hear it. And I used to sew because I needed my brain on.
Yeah.
So I used to either do it to music or to background movies that I'd already seen. But I remember from that
background.
Well,
I was like, what?
I zone out.
See, that's a good thing.
And if I know what the movie is, and I know I don't put my attention there, so there's just sound. And then as I'm like coming out of attention of focus, I will be like, oh, what part of the movie are we on or something. So I can do that. But I remember when I was telling someone, because they said, you didn't see that on television? I said, oh, I don't watch TV anymore. And they said, oh my God, what do you do? Oh my God, everything fun. And I was like, I made this dress that I'm wearing.
Right.
Going to watch sunsets.
I made a basket. I started some sourdough.
But you will be amazed, because we were getting into the habit of watching TV every night. And you will be amazed at how much time it ends up sucking up. And so one of the things that my in-laws are saying, oh, did you start watching this show? And I say, I don't have the time, because I can't get sucked into something. And I think about the number of hours. Well, that's going to be a 24-hour series. I don't have the time. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You know, because especially I felt that way young.
Yeah.
And now I'm older, and I'm thinking, oh, who knows how many hours I have left.
Right.
That's why I want to save them for good movies.
Right.
What do you think about Platoon? Did you see Platoon back in the day?
Yes. I liked Platoon.
I liked Platoon. I actually own it as a DVD.
I like Platoon.
Do you like the Underworld series?
I don't know if
With
I know
Celine and the vampires?
that. I don't think I've ever
Against the
seen
Werewolf?
that.
That's a good one.
So, Band of Brothers.
Fantastic.
Love it.
That's a series.
Waitress. Did you ever see Waitress?
No.
That's kind of it's more of a drama. Leaving and again, that's an underdog. She left an abusive relationship. She saved money. She was a waitress, and she would always, whenever stress or struggle and all the stuff, she would make pies. And eventually, the whole story is, and she's singing, and she's, she falls in love. But it's to me, it was just such a good. It was such a good story of a woman overcoming a struggle. And I mean, not to say that we all overcome struggles and things, but just to see somebody that has been beaten down and the world sees you as no good or worthless, and to make something of yourself. And it doesn't have to be a big, great, it doesn't have to be a big, great thing. It's the fact that she ended up owning her own restaurant and doing what she loved. So I love that. Fast and Furious. Did you ever see those?
I never saw those movies.
So again, I think the reason why some of these are stick with me, or the thing that I think that are memorable, it's what was happening around that time. Like if I go back and watch it now,
Vin Diesel.
Yes,
he was like the thing. And again, in my head, I'm thinking, this is I do think Hollywood has beautiful actresses.
Yes.
Actors,
Yes.
Not so much.
Yes. Oh, but what's the guy in there that he died? He actually died. He in a car, real life.
Paul Rudd?
Yes. What was his name in the
Paul something?
in the show?
We have internet. Let us look it up real quickly.
Well, so the reason why Fast and Furious is one on my list, again, it's about the interaction and it's about what surrounds it. So my kids were at the age where
Paul Walker.
Yes. God, he was cute. I liked him a lot.
Very thin, though.
Yeah. But he's still cute.
I don't like thin.
I would
It's
date
like
him.
Rob Lowe. Thin.
But you can change that. You can
Can ya?
change that.
Can you put
Yes.
muscle on those?
Give him some steroids.
He's got little neck.
Some steroids at McDonald's.
So I always
I'll
had the
chunk
fear.
you up, boy.
And it boils down to what is my personal taste.
Yeah.
Not I understand what looks on the screen is, those big,
Yes.
huge guys
Yes.
don't look. But The Rock, he's
Oh,
a big
but-
dude.
And he does some really cute movies, too.
He's a great actor.
Yes.
I actually really like him.
I like him, too.
Pain and Gain. Have you ever seen Pain and Gain?
I don't know if I saw Pain and Gain.
Mark Wahlberg. It's based on a true story about these guys
I'll write
who
that down.
kidnap. Oh my God, these guys who kidnap a boss. They're meatheads. They work at a gym, and they kidnap their boss to extort money out of him. And they're too dumb to extort. Like they don't understand how it works, and they end up murdering people, including this guy ends up getting away. They tried to murder him, but they don't officially. But The Rock plays the dumbest,
So funny.
the dumbest guy in the crew. Because even the smart guy is not actually smart, but he
Yes.
thinks he's smart, which is a Mark Wahlberg character. And the Rock is the weak link character because he's sensitive and he doesn't want to hurt anybody.
Yes.
And he had found the Lord in jail. So with this finding God and committing these crimes, and he keeps being talked into it, sort of, because this
Yeah, like, how did I find myself here?
yeah, and
Yes.
and then
He's
he
like,
has a
"Oh, okay."
cocaine problem, which is how he gets into jail in the first place. It's a horrible story because it's based on a true story, but it's a great movie.
I like Kevin Hart, too. I like when he does movies with, he does, what's the one he does with him? Gridiron Gang. I like that one.
Okay, I've never seen
Jumanji
it.
was cute. Have you seen that? I think Robin Williams did it, and I think he did the original one. But they're playing a board game, and then the board game comes to life. And now they're in the jungle, and they've got to beat the gang. I thought The Rock was really cute in that one.
But like he's a big dude. Like that's the guys I like. I like guys who have
Yes.
muscle, and I don't feel like my thighs would be bigger than theirs.
Yes. Yes.
That I would be when they're casting Lisa part of casting. I don't know. Let me see his thighs.
My
What?
response needs to be on a podcast. I was going to say.
You're gonna say something.
Yes.
Okay, Fight Club.
Yes.
Loved Fight Club.
I like Fight Club, but I didn't see it until just a couple of years ago because he's like, you haven't seen Fight Club?
Right, we're gonna put
Well,
a list
no.
together for Robyn. I thought we were doing this for millennials. We're
I
doing it for
know,
you.
right? Well, but think about so I didn't when we were, when my kids were coming up, and at night, and I don't think that my ex-husband. I actually don't even remember what we watched. I remember Thursday nights were date night for Survivor. Because we didn't watch a lot of TV. By the time you put the kids to bed, you're kind of tired, and I would go and exercise, and then so you have an hour or so. But we started doing Survivor because that came out was reality TV was new, and you're like, oh my God, this the very first show, the guy takes off all of his clothes and he's walking around the beach, and you're like, what is this
Right.
mess? So it's kind of like a train wreck, you kind of.
And you're
So-
watching the train
Yeah,
wreck.
so then we started doing like putting the kids to bed, and we would do milkshakes. He'd make homemade milkshakes and then popcorn, and then the kids got older and it got to be something. So it's the environment that
Yeah.
and again, like part of the reason I like Fast and Furious is my kids were at that age, and all of my son's friends, they were coming over, and we'd all watch it. And so you'd make, we'd have pizza and, cakes, whatever. We'd have all kinds of goodies and junk food. We'd all pile on the couch. We'd watch it. And then it progressed into taking 2 vehicles to the movies, and all the kids are piled in. And now it's not just his friends, it's her friends that are watching it too. So I've got like 12 kids sitting in the movie theater, and we're all sharing the experience. So it's not. Chris is like you create experiences around it. You look for an opportunity.
And you're almost using the movie as the ritual.
Yes.
It doesn't even matter what necessarily the story is. It's the
Yes.
ritual around the activity of the story. So the only reality TV show I liked was The Amazing Race. The reason why I didn't like the Survivor was they got together and voted off the smarter, stronger people. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I felt about that.
And then
But
they
The
started
Amazing
getting the
Race.
drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked The Amazing Race.
And I think you and I
yes.
would slay The Amazing Race.
Do they still do The Amazing Race?
I
Because
don't
I'm
know.
like, that would be really cool.
You and I would do fantastic on it.
As long as we had GPS.
We would
Can we
figure-
use GPS?
I don't know. I don't think so, probably. But
Yes.
you and I would figure it out. I actually think we would be a fantastic team for The Amazing Race. Season 36. Let's see if The Amazing Race is an actual thing. 2001. 36 seasons in. Is it still the same thing where you run around?
I
Doing
don't know. Now
challenges?
we'll have to check it out.
Hosted by Phil Keoghan. 13 teams of 2, each with a pre-existing relationship, compete in a race around the Americas to win $1 million. You and I should do it. We should try to.
Let's sign up. Let's try it. The only thing is, remember Joe Rogan? He was hosting the Fear Factor.
Yes, I used to like Fear Factor.
Oh my God, I was pregnant when we were watching Fear Factor. And I could not watch when they eat the nasty stuff. Like,
So-
I can't do any challenges that you do that. Like, I just
So
think
you
about
and I
it
would
now.
have to agree in advance. This is what happens. You get to eat the bugs or run around this thing. You and I know we're not eating bugs.
Yeah.
So there's no debating who's going to, like, no, we're not taking that challenge. We're doing the other challenge as
Yes.
fast as humanly possible.
Yes.
Because we're not doing the.
But on Survivor, like, you lose out on certain, like, it's not an either or.
That's why we're not doing Survivor.
Right. I couldn't do that. Or in Fear Factor. Like, you're
We're
out.
not doing
I'm
Fear
like, well,
Factor.
I'm out. That's where I check
But
out.
Amazing Race, you always got to choose your challenge. They'd always give you 2 options.
Yes.
One was
Yes.
really easy, like eat the bugs, and it would be quick and whatever. And the
Yes.
other one would be harder, but you have to shove down bugs
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't even remember if it was bugs, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Anything having to do with bugs, not out. Yeah, I'm out. You're out.
Yes.
So we'd automatically be like, the next one's bugs. We wouldn't even hear what they were explaining. We'd be like, I'm on the other challenge.
So-
no, we've got to go to the top of the hour.
Oh.
Stay tuned for the second hour of Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You're listening on WSMN